What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Tom? How you doing?
How you living, dude?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
Yeah, man.
Here, we
So,
made it.
finally, we're
Yeah.
on. Awesome, and well, yeah, welcome to Power Hour. For those watching, we're joined with Tom Logan, who is the CEO and co-founder of Cohley. Super excited to have you on here, Tom, and super excited to get rolling.
You finally invited me.
I know. I think we first talked about doing this a few months ago, and anyways, you know how it is. You get busy.
No, great to be here with you, man.
Awesome, I love it. Cool, man. Well, yeah. I mean, why don't we just kick things off with you kind of giving a quick
Background on Cohley?
a little background. Yeah.
Myself? Yeah. So yeah, Tom Logan. I am co-founder and CEO here at Cohley. We started the company about 5 years ago in San Francisco and have since moved out to New York. We're about a 51-person team now, and we're very focused on this idea of helping brands generate content that they can then put to use in all of their digital marketing channels. So think like photos and videos for Instagram ads, or professional photography for the website that's done by freelance sort of gig economy type folks, and then what we end up helping them do within our actual platform is activate those assets again. So we'll also help them connect their content directly with their email provider, with their SMS tools. Really, whatever sits within their marketing stack, we can connect the content to it.
Love it. Yeah, man, and obviously, we've been kind of leveraging the content that's come from your guys' platform as well, and we'll dive into that a little bit as well in a bit. But yes, I didn't know you're from West Coast.
I sure am. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I always thought you were from New York.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm flattered by that. Most people pick up the California disposition pretty quickly, but
Oh, really?
I grew up about 100 miles north of LA, Santa Barbara.
Okay, right on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the East Coast of Canada, obviously, so the weather is polar opposite. So I'm quite jealous of that. But I don't know why you came out east. Obviously, it wasn't for the weather.
No, it was not for the weather. It was really, two factors. One, all my buddies were getting married and becoming more and more boring in San Francisco, or just straight up moving. And secondly, there's no place like New York to grow a business. Like, there's zero apathy in the city. It is so full of life, so full of just people with, like, it's cliche, but just like big dreams. And with lots of brands that we work with, lots of agencies that we work with that are based here as well. So, typically we get the in-person advantage. Last year hasn't really been that way, but
yeah, exactly. No, that makes sense. So, what was your background like before you started Cohley? I've never asked you this, I don't think, but
all right. So this will be new to you too.
New to me too.
Yeah. So I got my start basically out of college at a startup that was in Silicon Valley. I was living in San Francisco at the time. We were focused on Facebook promotions, so like helping brands like basically run like sweepstakes, video contests, whatever. But it was back when the predominant belief was that, like, their Facebook brand page was going to be just as important as their website. So, that was a hell of a roller coaster. Made some incredible connections through that, and just like learned how to be a professional, learned about the marketing space.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shocking to me that I could work in an industry that was like my biggest distraction in college. It was like social media, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That's like when Facebook had like just started. So got my start there. We were really a rocket ship. Very little thanks to me. I was sort of just along for the ride. About the 100th hire or so, but
I'm sure you're being humble.
No, I mean, such a well-run machine. But got acquired by Google about 2 years after I joined. Then I had the opportunity to work with even more really smart people at Google. Did a lot of really interesting things. It was mostly a continuation of what we've been doing at Wildfire, but we started to like co-sell with the YouTube team and the DoubleClick team, and really like got a pretty good lay of the land of like how, the ad division within Google works, which is obviously
Yeah,
their their revenue driver. So
for sure.
yeah, I mean that was amazing. That was a fantastic experience, and I just kind of assumed that all startups just grew like crazy and were
Ran that smoothly.
yeah. It turns out that the next one that I joined was not that was not necessarily the case. It's called Pecora. That's where I met Eric. I
Okay.
initially hired Eric,
Who was your co-founder
my
at Cohley?
co-founder for context there. But yeah, Pecora was focused on this idea of user-generated content, but it was reactive, right? We were helping brands find photos, typically photos that normal people were posting on their behalf. So you might post a picture of your Air Maxes and hashtag Nike, or we could also use image analysis and recognition to say like, oh, that's a Nike swoosh, and we could flag that, help Nike get rights to it, and then put it to use. But there are like a myriad problems with that model. Like the quality sucked. There were legalities concerns, to say the least.
And the response rate reaching out to people to get access to use the photo would
It was
be
just bad. Yeah, it was just
imagine.
bad. So quality, legalities, and then timing was a big thing too, right? It's like if we're going to say that having user generated content on the product page is going to up conversions because it adds trust, it's allowing people to see themselves in the product. If we're going to say that, and we could prove that with data, then it also has to be at the same time it has to be a opportunity cost to launch a product that doesn't have that type of content, or doesn't have sufficient user generated content. So yeah, I mean, that company was a little bit of a different type of roller coaster, but like what we started to understand is this idea of the way that brands were starting to think about content, thinking about user generated content, thinking about testing, right? So
For sure.
we see the rise of the influencer space, and we're like, you know what? These guys what they're actually doing as influencers is creating really high quality, predictable, from a timing standpoint, fully rights approved assets that brands can use to incorporate and to grow. And that's really what it comes down to. Many iterations later, and that's largely still what we're working towards, is helping brands get the content that they need to grow.
100%, yeah. And I mean, it's interesting too how how like those relationships build, and you kind of build off your past experiences and things that were good ideas but weren't quite complete, and or even specific things maybe that you might have saw and maybe even like brought to the team where you were at, but there's just so many moving parts that they don't always see the light of day.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is crazy to think about how all of these different experiences come together in a unique type of way, and still like informs our decision making, right? Even the way that like the two CEOs at Wildfire and then Pecora like viewed fundraising like that, and hired management teams, emphasized diversity, treated culture as like as something that was either very important or less so. So
just
yeah,
different philosophies on
all of these things. Yeah. And again, like I am just so like eternally grateful for having been able to work in Silicon Valley and like be around all of these like really inspiring, smart people. I still feel like an imposter on some levels, but like back then I was just like, I was a kid in a candy store. I was obsessed with coming to work every day. And like, how many people get to say that? Especially
not many.
Yeah.
Yeah, not many at all. And I think that's like, there's a lot of people who just, it's a lot of people who just stay the course just because it's, it's scary to go out and look for a new job and take a new job. And, and a lot of times too, potentially decrease in pay to take something that you'd be happier doing. But yeah, it's definitely rare, I would say, for people to really genuinely be excited to wake up and go to work in the morning. And so that's awesome. And
yeah.
And
how do you do that? How do how do you enjoy the journey versus worrying about the destination, or letting all the stresses that like inevitably come up as a founder like hijack
Mm.
your mood and life?
I think, I mean, for the most part, I've genuinely been like relatively good at handling like stress, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, but I think like for the most part too, any times that has been a lot of stress, it's generally been kind of unwarranted, and typically things have like worked out in the past. And so I think like keeping that in perspective has helped me,
Mhm.
and also keeping in perspective the alternative and what I could be doing. And I don't think there's any job that
Yeah.
doesn't have drawbacks or negative sides to it. There's always kind of give and take. And I think like just keeping that in perspective is like,
Yeah.
man, like, I mean, you're doing this because you want to do it. And also trying to kind of relay that to the team. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard work. There's going to be some shitty things, but like it's important that this is fun. And if you
Yeah.
guys have feedback for how we can, make the environment culture better, then
Yeah.
trying to be as receptive as possible to that. Cause at the end of the day, I think, if everyone can come and kind of be in a good mood when they show up and excited to be there, you're going to get a lot more out of everyone as well. And so, I mean, I'm in the very, very early stages as a CEO, but just, yeah, learning as much as I can from people too, who've been through there. And that's kind of one of the things that I have been taking in a lot of from other, successful CEOs like yourself, is that, things are going to work out if you just keep on putting in the work and keep an open mind, open perspective that you might not be doing it the best way right now. There might be better ways to do things, and just, keep the momentum rolling and building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a mentality for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't think it's for everyone either.
Oh God,
Like,
no.
I definitely think that there's a lot of days and months, even looking back, where it's like, man, we wasted like 3 months doing this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, maybe even longer by times for you guys, but
Yeah. I saw actually that's an interesting thing that we could riff off for a second. I saw this on LinkedIn the other day, and there was like a really interesting debate around it. But the prompt was everyone should start a business at some point in their life. True or false?
good question.
It is a good
Good
question.
question.
Yeah, and I think there's like this there's almost like this stigma attached to it, where it's like if you say that you don't want to start a business, it's like you don't think you're like capable of doing it or something like that. I just think like skill sets are different
For
and
sure.
opportunity is different. Like also, you talk about not being not necessarily like being able to like forego salary and whatnot. Like you got to be able to do the right thing for your family too. Like the circumstance
For sure.
has
For
to be,
sure.
yeah.
100%. I think like, yeah, I think it's like a lot of it comes down to like self-awareness and that type of thing. And, being able to kind of be true to like your own skill set, and not necessarily your skill set right now, but what do you like want to be good at? And
Yeah.
I think some people want to be leaders, and some people just have zero interest in being leaders,
Hmm.
and are perfectly
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 fine.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, they're not everyone, like every team needs role players, right? Every team needs people that are going to show up and do the job extremely well,
Hmm.
but maybe not go. There's also, I've heard people talking lately too about um, being okay with staying in your position and staying within your confines of your role, and understanding that, that going beyond that can be detrimental by times to an organization too. If, for example, if you're someone who really needs really wants and needs your ideas to be, the final decision, you know, um, you can't like not
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
keeping, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that at the end of the day, you need those role players who are going to just make their contribution,
Yeah. Totally.
and that being said, I think having some leadership capabilities is definitely like
Yeah.
very important.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I also think that like it's a bit of a misnomer that like that you can't be growing and developing with it while still having the same title, right? Like you can.
Mm,
There's a lot of focus put on titles, and I guess that makes sense. You want the optics to line up. You want to put yourself in a position for like that next role, wherever it might be. But um, there's it's so much better to just be able to embrace the constant learning, right?
100%.
It's just
Yeah.
like, and just make it, part of your day, part of your week.
Yeah.
I know you're good at
Yeah.
that. Yeah, just like being
100%.
curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes, yeah, like looking at our team, I think that's what really separates certain people is the ability to go and really I guess obsess over their job and their position and do it, to the best of their ability. And that I think comes down to just, being like being in the trenches and kind of taking pride in that continuous learning and bringing stuff to the table as well, because that's one thing that I've definitely had to learn pretty quickly, is that like delegation is a skill, and being able to delegate and then also evaluate once you delegate is also, I think, pretty valuable too, because that's not necessarily my strong suit is delegation. I'm more of a, all right, what's got to get done, big to-do list, start tackling the to-do list. And it's definitely not the most efficient way.
Why do you think, or how have you grown as a delegator? It sounds like part of it is just like recognizing that you need to do more of it, and trusting,
Yeah,
having people around you that you trust to follow through.
for sure. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things, like I've been kind of in the entrepreneurship e-commerce landscape for the past 5 or 6 years now. As far as actually having like a team that I'm working with every single day, that's really only been the last year.
Yeah.
And so where I was just working kind of the solo, like I had some freelance help here and there. But where I was kind of doing the solo thing, I've never really worked in kind of an organization. Even through college, I had jobs, but they were more like labor jobs and stuff. And that's kind of when I got into the e-commerce landscape. And and so I think more so from a lack of experience, the delegation part of it was brand new, and just really making sure that people are fully aware of their position and the responsibilities that position carries is huge.
Sounds really basic, but like it's
It
not
does sound basic.
not always that simple, is it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Being really clear and collaborative around and getting full buy-in on like goals. Are you setting
Hmm.
goals? Are you measuring up against those goals? Are you using OKRs? Are you just simply setting like KPIs from quarter to quarter based on roles and responsibilities? How can you explain to those individuals or clearly articulate what why these things are important? How are they tying into the larger business and
Hmm.
goals of the business, right?
Right.
Versus just
Right.
like hitting a number. Okay.
And that
Why?
circles back to culture, even, I think, and making sure that everyone, because at the end of the day, you can set those KPIs, but why should someone even care about those KPIs besides their job, right? Because I think that it's, if you can get everyone on the same page about like, this is why we're doing what we're doing,
Mhm.
and this is, the potential that we have to reach, and this is what this company can look like in 5-10 years, and really get people fired up. I think it's a lot easier for people to, you know, really get fired up about hitting those KPIs and exceeding those KPIs.
Yeah, you'll really appreciate this. We've been talking a lot about essentially doubling our annual recurring revenue, the size of our book, in 2021, and we've been hammering this home in a variety of messaging, team meetings, etc. And um, one person asked me a couple weeks ago, like, why that number? Or like, why are we aiming to double? Is that like arbitrary? Is it just because it like sounds cool? And I thought that was like such a refreshing question because it actually forced me to like deconstruct, the philosophy of the business, where we see why we see the opportunity for growth now. Why does a business need to grow at all? Right? There are plenty of different types of businesses that might essentially like grow with inflation,
Yeah.
and they maintain great businesses. They pay people salaries. They contribute to society, and like that's awesome. But part of what that led to was being able to explain, like, well, tech opportunity is fairly ephemeral. There are the barrier to entry for other competitors to get into the space is not particularly high, right? So like we have a head start, but that doesn't mean that people couldn't replicate what we're doing and take market share.
Especially with open source, everything going open source too. And
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I don't know much about the tech or development space at all, but I know I got some buddies who are working a lot in like image voice recognition.
yeah.
And that's what he was saying is like everyone's kind of making this push to open source, which is good for progress in a macro level for sure. Makes it tougher though on smaller organizations who kind of develop that, because IP in tech is, it's not the same as in other industries. So
Not really, right? And we're not exactly driving towards like patents necessarily,
right.
right? And what we've seen within the influencer marketing space, particularly from a tech standpoint, is that there's been a lot of it's very much like a Red Sea type of environment, meaning that there's a lot of players just kind of like thrashing around for a relatively small market size. It's about an $8 billion market in totality. So many tools coming
Did you say
along.
8 million?
8 billion, yeah.
Oh, 8 billion. Okay.
8 billion, yeah.
But still, which is
Relatively pretty small.
considering how many people are doing it.
Yeah, that's my point, right? And that takes into account like everyone up to like Justin Bieber and Kim Kardashian as influencers too, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean the problem there is that like to your point around open sourcing, everyone has access within the influencer space to the same creators, right? It's not really like many exclusive agreements, at least not until you get to like Kim Kardashian.
Right.
Same creators, same integrations, same APIs, right? And then what you basically fall into is just like a feature war.
Yep.
A lot
Or
of
price.
Yeah, price, bells and whistles. One of our one company that we've competed with on more so like influencer deals is had partnered with IBM Watson to like suggest the perfect influencer, but like that they didn't gain any more market share, which goes to show like how do you separate yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, we think that the content and our integrations specifically into their marketing stacks is a unique angle, but who's to say that other companies won't come and do that? So we gotta take this like short term opportunity that we have, and we have to grow. Just an interesting thing to think about.
It is, yeah, it is, and it's as the CEO and the founders, it's like you have this attachment to the company too. I think that a lot of other people might not necessarily have, especially when they're joining. Sorry, this mic just fell off. But sorry, I kind of forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, the question of why are we growing? And so obviously as a CEO and founder, you're always going to want to grow because it's your company. It's at the end of the day, it's it's your neck on the line, and you have that attachment to it. But it is something that sometimes it takes those questions to stop and think, and it's like, which is good because then it helps you. Sometimes those questions will help you with building the culture, with building kind of the team and your why, really, why you're doing this, and I think that's important.
What do you actually want out of the business, right? Like, what is the ultimate goal for the company? What do you want to create? Is it if you're just doing it for monetary gain, then like you're probably going to get lost pretty quickly. You got to be able to like tie into some sort of like driver, some sort of like challenger mentality, whatever it might be. But like it also it doesn't, yeah, we haven't taken the path that we necessarily, wanted to raise as much venture as we could and grow as fast as we possibly can. 'Cause I know there's
Mhm.
downsides to that too. Just want to be
Yep.
able to grow on our own terms. Uh,
Yep. And make decisions on your own terms too.
yeah, which is which can fly out the window pretty quickly if you're not careful.
Note taken.
Yeah.
But no, I think, yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. We brought on an outside consultant who left a pretty big agency. His name's Josh Johnson. He runs a new consulting company called 321 Pocket Ops. Give him a little quick shout out. But he's really helped us kind of sit down and kind of like dial some of that stuff in, and more of like the identity stuff, and it's stuff that really touches every point of our outward facing brand, our website, our slide decks, everything that a prospect's going to see before they join us.
Sure. Yeah.
Showing them this stuff, and he's really helped us dial it in, and he's an operations guy, but he brought a lot of stuff leaving a bigger agency, and it's that's been a huge kind of learning curve for me too, because looking back, it's like, how did you ever really expect to grow without some of this stuff? And then and it's just it really gives a deeper I guess reason for why why you're doing what you're doing, who you're helping, and exactly how you do it too. Because being able to especially in a space like ours where it's very much a red ocean. There's thousands of agencies fighting over the same clients, and although the market of brands is huge, it's not infinite. And the barrier to entry for anyone can go and take a $500 course on how to run ads and buy a camera, what I mean? So it's and there's a lot of companies too that give the space a bad rep, because not everyone's going to have clients' best interest in mind, and I think really being able, obviously the case studies and testimonials and that stuff is great, but really being able to differentiate yourself from other companies is not always easy, especially if you don't want to do it on price. And so
Yeah. How do you think about differentiation, right? Like, I'm always curious to hear within sort of the ad tech world, or ad management / agency world, like how do you think about like creating separation or protecting off your own value propositions?
So I think niching down for sure is a big one. I think being able to have a very repeatable solution that you can almost guarantee is going to deliver is huge. And I think that really, if you can get really good with one type of client, and in clients that are in their kind of their position, because there's so many moving parts in the advertising game. Obviously your messaging that you're pushing is completely different. Industries have very different like competition levels within these ad platforms, and so getting really dialing in who you help, and getting really good at that, and then also making it for us, what we've been trying to do is make it as low risk for our clients as possible,
right?
But also
stuff,
but also being able to have our company scale alongside our clients when things are going really well, so that we can keep client volumes low, and so we don't get overloaded with all kinds of clients, by bringing on, by really, like, I guess, only being able to scale through onboarding more clients. Because there's a lot of agencies get kind of waterlogged with just too many clients, not paying big retainers, flat fees, and really, how do you decide where to allocate your time? It's probably going to be to what's, at the end of the day, what's bringing in the most money for the company.
And what's an example of an agency that you really admire or have thought about like modeling power after?
Yeah, good question. So I think we take a little bit, like we take different things from different agencies for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we've like there's the big agencies, obviously, you know, like the Mute Sixes, who do a lot of things very well. You know, and obviously they're massive teams. I think I saw a post yesterday, they're at 350 employees. And obviously, you know, there's tons of they got tons of past experience, and they've been in the game a long time. And so we're kind of taking certain things from them that they're doing well. Different creative agencies like Welling Media, for example, they've made a ton of noise in the e-commerce space, especially on like the Facebook group side of things. But then there's also things that you see with certain agencies that, you know, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, that they're doing very well, but then, you know, you hear things from different clients as well, things they don't like. And so there's other growth agencies, like there's a company called Sugatan, and really just kind of following kind of the founders and management team of those, and seeing the way that they operate as well. I think at the end of the day, you know, a lot of media buyers, especially people that just do the media buying part, are really going to push that, you know, all you really need to grow a business is good media buying. And then same with creatives, and then same with email marketers, and same with, you know, everyone's going to obviously push their services a lot and really make it seem like, you know, that all you really need to grow a business is kind of what they offer. But I think at the end of the day, you know, everything's got to come together. If you want to have a sustainably growing brand and grow, you know, fast and long term, you need to be really investing into every part of it. Because, for example, for us, we do paid traffic, content creation, but right now we're really working to integrate our services with things that trusted partners of ours can offer as well. Because you know, there's tons of instances where we're driving tons of traffic at a very, very cost effectively, but there's issues with the optimization of the website, or, you know, you basically not leveraging what we're delivering to the fullest.
Right.
And
certainly relate to that.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think from a differentiation standpoint, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is provide a low risk model,
low risk,
results, and be able to provide help at any stage of basically look and see where things are kind of breaking down, and kind of be able to provide a solution, whether that's through our team internally or through partners.
All right, I got a different question for you that I think you'll have some really good thoughts on. So, never been easier to start an e-commerce brand than it is right now, right? Shopify has like changed the game entirely. Their platform, all of the plugins, combined with like very easy to use targeting, and Facebook ads, etc. Not to mention e-commerce accelerating by like 5 to 6 years ahead of its end. Then
thanks COVID.
Right. So like all of these factors, just to like set a baseline for us. We talk to companies all the time that are like, you know, they might have like, call it 5 products. They're between say 1 and 3 million in annual revenue. And you know, they're like a 3 to 5 person team. There's a lot of those companies. They certainly all have needs. But like, I'm so interested in your opinion on how those companies break out of that crowd, right? Because like, there's so much competition, it's so easy to get going. There's so many like 3PLs that can help, you know, with logistics, sourcing, you know, trade over borders. Like, there are just so many. There are such easy turnkey services to get these things off the ground. What is going to be the difference between those companies that just kind of like languish in the 1 to 3 million range, and the ones that just like take off?
Yeah, good question. And full transparency here, I haven't done it myself, so I might not be the best person to answer this question. But my
Yeah, you
thoughts
work with so
are,
many of these companies though, and you've
yeah,
seen it obviously with
yeah,
Vertiball.
and most of our clients would be in that same situation.
Yeah, sound
And
example.
so I'll fire the question back at you after. But my thoughts are, I think innovation is huge.
Hmm.
Being like hyper focused on your product and your customers
Hmm.
is huge and overlooked by a lot of people, especially in the e-commerce, drop shipping, private labeling, Amazon FBA space. Like it's all dollar signs right now, and move on to find another product, and not actually genuinely having that mission of making your customers' life better. I think that's one thing, and I think some of the brands that we work with, it's so refreshing to see, because you look at a brand like Vertiball and founder of Vertiball, Curtis Kennedy's, extremely focused on product design. He's got an awesome team working with him as well. But yeah, really focused on design, solution, and making the customers' lives better. And it really, from on our side, it makes things easier as well, because we know that there's, like, we're already prepping for future product launches now, which is just going to make, from a customer lifetime value standpoint, it's going to make it easier. And then yeah, I think that's one big part of it. I think the mindset of understanding that, like, you need a team of like, I think people's huge. So I think make like having the right people on the team, which isn't even always the easiest thing to do, is let people go when they're just doing a good job, but they're kind of holding you back from growth. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think product and people are huge. I think there's so many vendors that offer great services. There's it's becoming easier to get capital as an e-commerce brand with companies like Clearbank.
Yeah.
I think if you have the product and the people, I think that's probably the biggest two things. I'm interested to hear your thoughts though, because you guys work with a big variety of much more so than us of brands, and so I'm definitely interested in hearing your thoughts.
Yeah. I think to your point, you do have to have a product and a mission that connects with people on some level. And I like the model, sort of tying into what you said earlier, around like starting with more of a niche audience and being able to grow out of that and start to look for parallel markets versus just saying like, oh, this is a product for everyone. It's like, well, is it really a product for everyone? I love RX Bar's model of building within the CrossFit community,
Mm-hmm.
developing a crazy loyal following, and then building up the product and the branding and everything else to kind of go wider than that, right? So like,
Yeah.
can you find 100 people that are obsessed with your product, like really obsessed, or are you really just kind of like a novelty, like BS run of the mill type?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can show me that you have 100 people, doesn't matter who they are, could be your parents for all I care, but like genuinely obsessed with your product, um, then to me, then you have something. You can scale that. You can start to understand, like, all right, who is this persona? Where do they hang out? How can I shape this? Um, are they going to continue buying from us? Like, do they have like major lifetime value potential? Are they repeat buyers? Do we have the type of service that we can, or offering, or product differentiation, um, that we can sell more products into, right? Like, it's not enough to spend $100 to acquire a customer if you only sell
Mm-hmm.
one product and it's $100 and it's like a backpack that you only need one of every 6 years. Like
It's an amazing point.
I mean, you gotta be able to cross sell. You gotta be able to build the brand so that that same backpack company can release, uh, they could release handbags. They could do sunscreen. They could do towels. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you just start to
Mm-hmm.
build up build up their carts, build up that repeat purchase, and then so long as you have like that type of brand built up, that type of trust built up, and you can release new products, you can start to segment your email your emails accordingly, you can continue to bring people back and back and back. And then of course, like what's near and dear to our heart at Cohley is like evening the playing field by turning to real people to create content for you so that you're not getting beat up by the Goliaths of your respective industry that you're trying to challenge. To me, the great equalizer is being able to turn to real people who are creative, who want to take your product in and come up with their own interpretations and features and are willing to speak about it, write product reviews, do video testimonials. And then you can take those assets and flip them into new customers, use it for targeting the specific personas that you've had success with. And then, you gotta be able to stick with it, right? You got to manage capital well. You got to hire the right people, like you said. You got to scratch and claw for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, man, I love that point actually. And having a couple things. I'm going to touch on a couple things you mentioned, but having the brand loyalty that you don't need to pay money to acquire every customer is huge. And obviously, for one product brands, that's tough. It's tough, especially if it's not a consumable product. But everyone, especially in the space that I'm in, and I know a lot of brands, especially smaller brands, but are hyper focused on the next ad strategy, or how can we make our ad creatives even better, advertising, but at the end of the day, like, there's so many different things that you can focus on, and if you can increase your returning customer rate by 2%, versus decreasing your cost per acquisition on the paid side, like those are free. That's basically free, it's an email too. Like reaching out to an audience on email is virtually free compared to investing all these dollars in advertising. And, those people are also going to, if they're actually passionate about your brand and regularly buying your products, they're going to be talking to their friends about it too. And that's just free word of mouth advertising. And that advertising, if someone's going to go and talk to their friends, that's going to be way more effective than any paid advertising, because there's no incentive for them to do that. And it's just, it's just
most of the time when I buy something personally, like sometimes I'll fall trap to Instagram ad for sure. But most of the time it's because someone that I'm friends with or I work with recommends something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sold. I'm willing
100%.
to try it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to do is like, if I ever see someone wearing like a new, like what I can tell is like a new shirt or like new shoes or whatever, I'll always be like, walk me through your consumer journey on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It gives you good like kind of insights into the consumer behavior sometimes too, which, I mean, at the end of the day, that's virtually all we are as direct response advertisers is,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And another experiment you could do is go ask your parents or people your parents' age for their buyer's journey versus like millennials. It's like unbelievable how different it is. My dad would be like, I needed a shirt, so I went to the store and I got a shirt. Like, okay. Like, I'll tell you the journey behind this sweatshirt. My friend Richard had a very similar one from Everlane. He's like, hey, it's like cashmere, but it's like not that expensive. Like, I'm getting a ton of compliments on it. And I was like, all right, Everlane, go check out Everlane. Hadn't even really heard of the brand. This was like a while ago, obviously, but old sweatshirt. But but I like, went on the website, read reviews. Like, I think I probably asked a few colleagues, like, you guys ever heard of Everlane? Understood their brand messaging, saw their Instagram, and then converted. So like, what a different, and I've since probably bought a lot more from Everlane than my dad has bought from that company that makes a shirt, who he probably doesn't even know who the heck the company is, because it doesn't matter to
100%.
him. Right?
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of the social media kind of transformation that we've gone through?
Yeah. It's like our parents are more like, they're not as discerning, right? It's like they have a need and then they go fill the need. But with millennials, I mean, we're the first generation that's been marketed to essentially from like every medium from basically the day we were born. And
Hmm.
our BS meter is so accurate, which is why like brands are clamoring to like build emotional connections with consumers, because it's not enough to just make the best shirt in the world. You have to tell
Yeah.
them why you made the shirt, what your purpose is, what your which charities you support,
Yeah.
what your work culture is like, how sustainably is that shirt made. I mean,
Yeah.
and yeah, you need to feel like you're a part of that brand. You need to you need to see yourself reflected in that brand. A lot of my peers, particularly at this time in the US, like, is this brand inclusive? Do they care about diversity? Do they feature diverse models? Are they body inclusive? Are they racial inclusive? I mean, these things are all important. And
Yep.
my dad is still like, does this come in long sleeve?
My dad, yeah. I mean, I don't know if my dad's ever bought an article of clothes for himself. I think it's always my mom buying him
I
clothes
mean,
or my family buying him clothes.
yeah,
Um,
it's
but
crazy to think about how it's changed, right? But what that also means is that like it might be tougher to win that customer, like that falls into our demographic, the millennial demographic. But that also, what that emotional connection can mean is that even if it's twice as expensive to acquire, if you serve the right product, you stay consistent with your messaging, you continue to do things sustainably, you support causes that fall in line with that individual, they're going to keep buying from you, and
mhm,
your LTV is going to be well worth that initial
yeah,
customer acquisition cost.
for sure,
Um,
for sure. And I think like touching on what you said too about the being inclusive as a brand, and diverse and honestly, like doing all the things that you should do to be a progressive
yeah,
you know progressive brand and
yeah,
but I think like that stuff is almost now expected, and doing
agree.
it in a way that is unique too. And there's brands that are thriving off um being extremely controversial, and they have an extremely loyal following,
Hmm.
extremely loyal customer base, and are hated by the people who aren't customers. And that would are the number one brand for some of the customer base. So
Yeah,
like I think there's something to say for also being unique and having your own voice as well,
hmm,
in the way you're going about doing that stuff. And I think you're totally right, by the way. I think
yeah,
I think to have a cause and purpose behind what you're doing um, is absolutely massive. But even in your marketing and messaging and your website, and having your own, almost like being able to kind of get a sense for a brand's personality and who you can almost understand who's behind working in the
I
offices
agree.
is
And that's why
huge.
it has to be authentic, right? Because
Mhm,
you can't fake it. And if I
yeah,
just go try to start a brand that's like obsessed with sustainability, environmental impact, and pricing transparency, like that wouldn't necessarily be super authentic coming from me.
right,
I'm like a big polluter or anything, but like I'm not particularly passionate about those items,
right,
and that's okay.
yeah.
Uh, but it would probably come off as such. It would come off authentic coming from me.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. And that's what, and honestly, that's kind of why that's kind of why I got into the agency space, is because I've done like the drop shipping, the private
Yeah.
label eCom, I've
Mhm.
had my own e-commerce businesses in the past. And at the end of the day, the reason I was doing it is because I really like the marketing and growth side of scaling things up, and acquiring customers. I find really fun and challenging at the same time, and which is good. But I think, if I was strongly passionate about a product, or and who knows, that might come one day. But it definitely, I would definitely want to be something that's like unique, solves a real problem in the world, and but also something that I could definitely, like, you can almost like relate to your customers and build that community that's genuine. And I think that's really the key, is just being authentic and genuine as well with the brand. And
Ah, yeah,
people sense that. People sense
they
that shit.
do, and they're so discerning. It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't provide that great service, that messaging that's on point, they break that dialogue, that connection, and you just go to the next company. Like there's so
Yeah,
many of them, right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Let's talk a little bit more about content. Obviously, well, yeah, we've leveraged a lot of the content that you guys have made at Cohley, and it's been. We were talking about this last week or a couple of weeks ago. Basically, how effective that's been at kind of layering in with some other types of content as well. Some of the UGC stuff with some more like in studio type content as well. Is there any trends that you're seeing from brands that are really blowing up right now in terms of content? Are you guys seeing? I know you guys launched a TikTok integration.
Yeah.
How's all that been going? And any trends or anything you guys have been seeing from a demand as far as the
Yeah.
brands?
I think what continues to be the case is that channel specificity around content strategy, stated goals is really important. Like it's not the sort of environment where you can just repurpose exactly what you're doing on Instagram stories on TikTok, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And it
100%.
also might be a little bit different if you're targeting a different demographic, right? Cannot be an old world brand that has a bunch of 55-year-olds in your marketing and expect to capture millennial, right? So I think really what we're seeing is like brands just need so much more to be able to test, to be able to work in, and luckily that's been really good for us. Sort of just a guess that we made like 5 years ago that it would start to develop this way. But specific trends, yeah, I mean, it's like a ton of user generated video, testimonial, demo featuring the product, unboxing, and then they'll do a lot of work with their partners or in house themselves. Well, where they'll piece the videos together into like more of a mashup. I know you've done some of those similar types of things at Vertiball, but it's like, take five video assets, mash them up into a 15-second, 20-second segment, and put some music behind it, do text overlays, take the best parts of each video that are submitted and turn it into like this captivating, 15 seconds. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that type of content is working really well, particularly at the top of the funnel when you're
For sure.
introducing,
For sure.
a brand.
Yeah, no doubt. And you guys are in an awesome place right now, I think, because the type of content that your creators are creating is content that's been it's almost been a shift. I feel like from obviously, I'm newer in the space,
Oh,
but from these you look at a brand like big companies like Well Simple, and you look through their ad library, and then you'll see like a commercial on TV, and then you look through the ad library and you'll see basically someone talking on an iPhone with like a green screen of like investing charts behind them, like cracking jokes and stuff like that. And don't quote me on this because I don't know if that's directly from their ad library or not, but like these massive companies are taking user generated content, and it's not at all the most, the production level on this content isn't very high at all. And
yeah,
it's just, there's one reason why they're running it, and it's either to test or to scale. Right. And the fact they're testing it shows that, that type of content works. And it's awesome because for us, so we handle, obviously the paid traffic with a brand like Vertiball, and we do content creation as well. And we've been kind of blending that in with the stuff that we've been getting from Cohley, and it's having that variation that from their Cohley library allows us to basically iterate on the structure, the parts of the structure of the ad that we know that work really well, the hooks that we've dialed in, the problem, the agitation, and then the solution. But then you have another portion that is the user generated content, testimonials, building credibility, authority, product demos, and that type of stuff. You have so much variation that you can just layer in, and basically you can extend the lifetime of the content so much. And that's definitely, I think, definitely one of the biggest things that holds smaller brands back from scaling is the lack of volume of that content. because when things die out, then you got to go get stuff shot again. And if you're turning to somewhere like Fiverr, quality, you don't know what you're getting for quality. And so having that volume is huge. And basically there's millions of combinations of stuff you can do.
Yeah.
Each one's going to perform a little bit different. So
Yeah. I mean, and to your point, like, I think there's too much of a sense amongst smaller brands that like once they find a winning creative that they're like good,
mm-hmm.
But because it's daunting. You work hard, you find that winner, and like we develop that calculator together. We know that on average, a winning creative, a new king of the hill, even though it only happens 5% of the time in a test, that means 10% higher click-through rate, 4% reduction in CPM. That's worth always working towards, right?
Right.
You find one winner doesn't mean you're done, but it's hard when you don't have enough assets, right? Because the idea of ad fatigue is like, well, we'll worry about it when it starts fatiguing, but that's too late.
100%.
We're a little late at this point. We got to keep moving. So
100%. Yeah. And then you have we're just talking about the paid side right now. And then you have the organic side, which is, it's not, it's especially with a lot of the newer, younger, smaller brands. It's, and this is actually touching back on something which I wanted to touch on again from the very start when you're talking about your very first company that you were working with. But basically these algorithms now, the reach is getting throttled, and the same thing with pages. Like pages used to be, I don't even know what it was, but it was quite a large percentage of your page followers and page likes that would see your content, and then it shifted to groups.
It was all time based. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it shifted to groups, and then groups are getting a ton of reach, and now the reach on groups is lower, and so it's always shifting to the next big thing. And whether or not that's intentional by these platforms to, they
just
level
want
the playing field.
They want you to pay for it. Yeah.
Right.
That's probably.
But on the organic side, these things are built into the algorithms still, and so like having this strong presence, which requires a lot of volume of posting. Like a lot of people recommend posting 3 or 4 times a day, even to get in. And so you just posting just a post of text, solid black background with text, like that's really not going to do a whole lot of brand building, and so that's where having that massive library of content comes in amazing. You can schedule your posts, exactly what it's going to look like, and obviously with you guys, customize the campaigns however you want them as well.
Yeah, and you can also start to like glean learnings from that, right? Like when we talk about TikTok, what we're always telling brands is like, join first before you think about a paid strategy. Why don't let's join the conversation. Let's start to test some content from creators, right? Because it's a creator-driven platform. So let's get you some content that's like branded, but is also it's native to the platform. Let's join it. Let's start to see what's working. And then once we start to see like what the algorithm's rewarding, what people are connecting with, what people are sharing, then let's try to scale that up in a paid capacity.
And that's a great point. And that's an advantage that brands with massive followings organically have. Because really for someone that doesn't have, you got to be able to get enough data from the organic post, but TikTok, with the algorithm on TikTok, you can blow up like that. And I actually got a buddy who's he's always sending updates, but I don't even know what he's at now, but some of his posts are getting millions of views, and he's doing it just for shits. But it's just the way that the algorithm's built, and so it's a whole different beast from a paid advertising acquisition standpoint, and we haven't tackled that one yet. But it's where the attention is right now, and I think it's the way the algorithm's built, it gives you that advantage on testing organic content for sure. Which is huge.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that's certainly that's low hanging fruit, right? And it's low cost.
Yeah.
Even if you can just learn a few things that you can incorporate into a paid strategy, then you're going to be more efficient with your spend.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So, cool. Yeah. So you guys, so 5 years, you said, since you started Cohley?
Something like that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
been years.
At what point did you guys like realize that things were like starting to take off, or was it pretty much right away, or how'd that?
Way. No, I mean, Eric and I were so stricken with imposter syndrome early on that we didn't even hire anyone until July of 2018 after starting the company March of 2016. So, like, granted, the Cohley product wasn't ready in its full, entirety until sort of like mid to late 17.
Which would have been like a year,
Yeah,
about a year after
we had
you
like
started.
we had a product early on. It was like a shoppable Instagram product that we were running and then starting to formulate the idea for
Okay.
Cohley and develop it, whatnot. But yeah, as soon as when we realized we had something was when we hired salespeople who could sell the product. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that your first hire, sales?
First hire was Jen. She was more so helping us with account management because I had been our number one sales rep.
Okay. So who's the developer of this?
So we have a team in Argentina.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so
Eric
you were connected with them when you started
Yep.
Cohley? Okay. And then so what's Eric's background?
Eric is customer success and then moved into more product management.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
he would tell you that he knows enough to be dangerous on the technical side. He's certainly not a developer by any means, but Eric is very much we see the world the same way in the space developing, and we're very aligned around building the business, but his skill set is much different than mine, which is, we could talk about that
perfect, man.
time, but important to have complementary skill sets with the co-founder.
For sure. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And so you'd say it was about 2 years then from when you started to when you guys were like, I think this is gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you never know, right? And like, gonna work is like also kind of relative. It's like, well, okay, we can continue doing this. Like, we're not gonna quit the business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of degrees between that and becoming like a transcendent $1 billion entity, right? So, I'm somewhere in the middle now, but
yeah,
you just you try to enjoy it, and like you said, hire great people, talk about your why, your stated purpose, and like I said, scratch and claw.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm not just saying this, but like we also benefit from an ecosystem of partners and people who are enthusiastic about working with us and see value in what we do, and vice versa. So props to you for that.
No, 100%. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and obviously, I've been able to soak up a lot of knowledge from you, and you've been obviously super supportive of helping me out by times too. So it's definitely listen, it's definitely something that we see insane amount of value in what you guys are doing, and obviously the brand's seeing the same amount of value. And so basically, when I was talking earlier about having integrations of things that we can't necessarily handle, which is insane amounts of volume of content, it's something that is amazing for our clients, and it's definitely something that we push, whether clients of ours or not. If you're struggling for getting content and volume, or if you're just paying too much for that content, or if it's inconsistent, book a call with these guys at Cohley, because that the content that we've been able to leverage has been a big part of driving millions of dollars worth of revenue. And so it's definitely has tangible return. And and plus the other thing too is, like I said, it's not just the ROI, but the insights and learning, which leads to a lot of ROI as well. And we're just talking about, we're not even touching on website, CRO, email, and all that other stuff too. So yeah, man. So awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to stop this one. We'll definitely be having you on we'll definitely be having you on for another episode of Power Hour, man. It's been fun. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks, Ryan.
Awesome. Anytime. Boom. Cool.
All right, man. I didn't know we were recording early on. When I first got on, I was like trying to close a tab. I think you can edit that out.
I didn't even notice.
Oh, good, cool.
But no, basically,
like them, yeah.
It'll all be edited, and then before anything gets posted, I'll make sure it gets sent to you, so don't catch any stuff. I don't think there's anything too bad said in there, but
oh no, we'll be fine. Oh, yeah. We hit on some good. We hit on some really good notes there.